I'm Gabe Davis. We have information up here. Our bit.ly is right here if you want to follow along with the slides. We do have some videos on there that will show. We found out this morning that sometimes the access, even when you're the creator, gets messed up. So if you want to look at them to show off what some of the things that we're doing or give examples to students, if you choose to do some of the things, feel free to just request the access and we'll give it to you. There's nothing groundbreaking in the videos besides kids doing stuff that they seem to be enjoying, which is a good thing.
I'm Amy Anderson, and Gabe and I work for the Lamar's community school system, and it's kind of funny because we are not the makerspace people, as in, you know, the designated. Gabe teaches 6th grade science. I teach art and graphic art. But in a roundabout way, we created this class and it's been pretty fun.
Real quick, how many elementary teachers do we have here? Middle school? High school? Okay. And is it all classroom teachers or do we have some administrators? Any administrators? Don't worry, we're not going to. Okay, Tom Tate Gifted.
Yep.
Awesome.
Okay. Perfect.
Instructional coaches. All right. So we'll go ahead and get started. We are from Lamar's, the ice cream capital of the world. Wells, Blue Bunny, come on in. Come on in. So we're more well known for that than our iLab, but you know what? We keep traveling around. Maybe we'll make a living on it. So if you don't know where Lamar's is at, we're up in the northwest corner of Iowa. It's the idea of iLab started as a big idea, for lack of better words. There was really no plan. Our principal came up to us and said, I have an idea. What do you think about creating a class where they do this makerspace stuff?
And originally, he asked the FACS teacher to do it. You know, she didn't have anything else to do. FACS teacher. But then scheduling, you know how that all changes.
And so this is Travis Lake, Harrisburg, South Dakota, I believe is where he's at, correct, guys? And he has a wonderful makerspace in his school, and that's where part of the idea came from. Our principal saw it after being taken up there by some of our instructional coaches and with some other teachers, and it kind of got the ball rolling because these kids, the time that I went, you know, I don't know about everybody else, but 6th grade students, 7th grade students, 8th grade students, they want to do their thing, and they don't always worry about what is going on in the world because their world is right here. I had 3 or 4 kids when I went up come up and tap me on the shoulder and say, hey, come here, I want to show you this. And drag me to see a robot or drag me to see something. And to see kids that comfortable was pretty cool. So that's stuff that we saw and we noticed. And so we both jumped on board.
Exciting. Very exciting.
The way it works out is we have a maker space as a class. We asked about what our principal wanted. He wanted problem solving. He wants our students to be able to figure things out. Now, that's hard for them for 6th grade students, 7th grade students, 8th grade students to take that leap, to step off the ledge and be willing to put themselves out there. So that's another thing. We wanted to promote failure in order to help them improve and just solve problems. Teamwork, okay? There's better examples of teamwork that I could take. But they're actually cutting apart a stuffed animal with a saw. There's more to that story. We'll talk about that here in a little bit. And then be creative. Okay? You know, and I think that's a huge part of why Amy's so awesome at this is because as an art teacher, I mean, she's going to say we're all creative because that's what art teachers do. But she's super creative. You know, just as an example, she makes an iTech deal to bring the posters in right as she walks out of school the other day. Those are the types of things She does. So her creativity helps us that are a little bit more black and white, not so creative-minded. But it helps us break out of our box. The one thing that Amy and I talked about is, right when we started, is you want all these things, and our only request was, let's not grade it. Because how can we tell a student, okay, we want you to make mistakes, we want you to screw up, we want you to fail over and over again, but if you do, you're going to get a C, because that's just how grading works. So our principal was okay with it. We didn't know, but he was good with it. And he said, okay, it's a pass-fail. And I tell my students that right away on the first day. I say, this class is a pass-fail. You're going to pass it because you're going to do what we need you to do. So it encouraged, and you don't have that grade hanging over anybody's head. And I think that's important when it comes to a class like this for us. Now, I know other people do different things, and that's fine. There's no one way to do it. This is just our way. Do you have anything on that?
Absolutely. This was the first time I didn't have kids constantly coming up to me, what am I getting for a grade? When is this due? And just so stressed out about that part of the project. They could come in and get right to work, and they were so busy, working with the other people and figuring out their plans. It wasn't even a consideration. And I think, I don't know how many times the kids came in and said, I wish I could have this class all day. It was, their stress level was non-existent in the class, and it was a joy. And I was probably the one most stressed out, because we'd never done it before, and I'm like, oh, what are we doing? But the kids, that brought their stress level down, brought mine down, and that helped immensely.
I will say the students that like to play school, that like to sit and take notes, that like,
yes.
Okay, what are my expectations? Just lay it out, I will meet them, and I'll be done with it, and then I'll move on to the next thing. They may struggle with this more. Sometimes some of the talented and gifted, they like their lane, they like to go, and their finish line is there. This class for us was, the finish line's so far out there, it's over so many hills, and there's all kinds of stuff in the way that we don't even know that's there yet. So that bugged some of them. And some of them flat out told me, I think this is stupid. But the other kids, the kids that sit in the back of my science class when I'm teaching that, and they can't take notes to save their life, they just
Yes.
took off.
Yes.
And so it's not always the case, but it was the case quite a few times. Like I said, failure is an option. For artists, scientists, inventors, school children, and the rest of us, intrinsic motivation, the drive to do something because it is interesting, challenging, and absorbing, is essential for higher levels of creativity. We've seen that, guy. This whole thing is about creativity. This whole conference. And when we give them choice and chances to be creative, they buy in. That buy-in factor is huge. And this is a book all on motivation. If you haven't read it, it's really good. But it basically says that you can put all these other carrots out there, but if they don't want to and they're not motivated by something intrinsically, then you're going to get just boxed stuff. And so I recommend that too. Of course, you got to make t-shirts. And because we have an art teacher that knows how to make these things, we made t-shirts. We made them for I'll say a fundraiser, but an outing that we had at Barnes & Noble's where we went to get some money for some things. So we have a couple slides about that here coming up. This is our room.
Oh boy, we are very fortunate to have this room. It was unfortunate that the high school, fax teacher retired and they didn't replace her. But we were able to get this big, beautiful room.
And this is as clean as it's ever been.
I was wondering when you took this picture, I thought, what?
This was right before summer break, but this is as clean as it's ever been. We have tables. You can sit 6 or 8 little bench seats around it, or Spiros. These are all, those have power to them, and there's 4 of those tables. We have counter space. We have
drawers galore.
Drawers. This is another side. We have a sink that usually works. We have all of this space. Back here is actually another room that the fax teacher used and still has some stuff back there, some different fabrics, but we can put stuff back there when we make videos. When they go and need to record something out of the voices of everyone, that's kind of a little sound room. Or if we had some students do a video and they wanted it darker, they went back there. So and the floor is hard linoleum, old and not great, but that's perfect for what we're doing. Because, I mean, I've even taken my science class down there to do science labs because it's just such a nice, big, open area room. It's kind of down a hallway in our school where we can just get lost and do our thing. And sometimes we do. Sometimes the kids get to class a little later the next period. Okay, we're going to talk about some different activities. Like I said, there's no rhyme or reason. What I did, I teach my class. I have 6th grade, and it's 4 quarters. 9-week course. Every 6th grade student gets it. Mrs. Anderson?
Yep, I teach 8th grade, and mine is an elective for 8th graders. So, unlike Gabe, who has every single 6th grade student taking this for a quarter, I have 8th graders for a whole semester who have signed up to take it. So the kids who sign up to take iLab from me are the ones who really want to be there for the most part. But so whereas Gabe has the ones where it kind of freaks them out a little bit, I have the ones who they want to go as soon as they walk in. So I'm fortunate that way.
And last year being the first year, some signed up because they didn't know what else
They didn't know what
it was. They had no idea. It was literally on a sheet of paper and it said iLab. And when it went out the spring before, we didn't even really know what it was. So kids signed up. Now, 7th grade doesn't get it. And that's been something that I've been pushing for. Mrs. Anderson's been pushing for. Kids that had it in 6th grade that now are in 7th grade have been pushing for. So that's kind of cool. One thing we do in the 6th grade is Rube Goldberg machines. Has anybody ever seen or heard of any of these? They're pretty simple. We just got done doing them last week too. This is from last year. And the one thing I like about these, the Rube Goldberg machine, long story short, is a machine that does something very simple with a bunch of different steps. Think the old game Mousetrap. Okay? So I have just junk supplies, and we'll talk about how those came about, but I have just stuff everywhere. And so masking tape is a huge thing, paper towels. They had to get a ball to be thrown or fly. Think, Make, Innovate, Grant Wood. They actually kind of got me going on this idea. So here's the first one. Marble, dominoes, failure. Okay? So the hardest thing is to get them to do all that and then want to do it again. So they have to get close enough because 6th graders setting up dominoes, seriously. There's too many of them, it's a trip. They'll sit there for 30 minutes trying to set up 7 of them and then someone will go, and then it's all over again. So the payoff, now they don't all pay off like this, but the payoff is just right here. And I think the end of it is the best part. Go for it.
All right.
That sound. I know, actually her mom is a sub. I know because her mom says that she went home and talked about that. And the kid that's yelling, yeah, in the background, he just yells all the time. But usually it's not because he's doing what he's supposed to be doing. Okay? So those are positives because to me they're engaged. And that's 50, 75, 95% of the battle. Okay? The next one, now this one, okay. This is a Rube Goldberg. This is on our wall. You can see how nice and tidy we are. They built this contraption to drop the domino down here, and I don't even know how they did it. But their wall is cardboard. It goes down. It hits something that shoots another marble up here that's smaller and goes and then falls through this hole and then sets it off. I don't know how they did it. Go for it. hard to find good help. Here we go.
Go down this, through that tunnel. It's going to hit that, which is going to make that throw something back
that from
up
home. Just a,
here. That's going to go down, and then it's going to go down here and hit that mouse trap.
Yeah. Hold on.
All right, let's do this.
Hold on. Wait. Okay. Take 2. Oh, it still works. No.
Take 3.
I can't even keep up.
Nice.
So, like I said, I don't even know how. That's not what their original drawing was. I know that. But they got there. And, nope, it's probably not helping them with their reading scores. It's probably not helping them on a standardized test or anything like that. But for 42 minutes for 4 or 5 days, those kids loved every second of that. And I know that they learned how to work together. They were creative as all get out. And they had to do some problem solving, because you don't just get the ball to go back and do that stuff by accident. We go to the next one here. What do we have next?
Here we go.
Green screens. You want to talk green
Yeah,
screens?
I'll talk green screens. Green screen. We were able to, well, first we borrowed from the elementary. We borrowed the green screen. We now have, our own green screen. So much fun. I know Gabe had the 6th graders making commercials and, learning different video techniques. My 8th graders, reading is always being promoted in school. You know how that is. And I have my 30-year-old REM read poster up in my art room, where, I don't know if you ever get the catalogs that talk about the read posters, and they have the famous person reading their famous, their favorite book. And you can buy the CDs, and they're like $30. I thought, my kids can make these. And what they did, it was amazing. They invited the teachers, all the teachers in the school, to come in, either in the mornings or the afternoons, and they took their picture. And with their picture, they held a green rectangle. So those aren't the books. They had a green rectangle in front of the green screen. They took their pictures, and then the teachers wrote down their favorite book. So the students had to research the book, find out about it, and put a coordinating background behind the teacher, as well as some sort of, cool font that went with it as well. They had the best time making these. And it was so cool, because then our school paid to have them printed up as posters, and they were hung all over the school. So every hallway we went down, the commons, 6th grade hall, 7th grade hall, the enrichment hall. There were read posters everywhere. And so the kids got to see what they spent so much time creating, up on the wall. And it was up all year. We'll do it again. Unfortunately, I don't have iLab until 2nd semester this year, so we haven't done much of it. But it was one of the best projects we've ever done. Now, one word, I'm going to click the next. So here's Gabe and I with our books. But like I said, it was kind of fun that they had to research the books, find a picture of the book, and make the teacher holding it, and then correspond the background. If you've ever read Cinder, she's a robot Cinderella, so they put little circuits behind me. And then behind Gabe, Chase the Lion. Obviously, I'm not sure they know what the book is about, but they put a lion in the background, and it's kind of cool though how they had it, and it's very striking. They did a fantastic job. Now, sometimes it didn't work as well. If you want to click the next step, so it did and it didn't. Well, these were good ones though. First one's our principal. He requested what he wanted in the background, so that was kind of fun for the kids too. So they were able to go, get a picture of the Lincoln Memorial, put that behind the principal. Kite Runner, obviously these kids probably haven't read Kite Runner. It's like, oh my gosh, one of the most disturbing books I've ever read. But, they have a nice little fun kite in the background. But hopefully, this promotes them to read. It didn't always work out for the best. Sometimes, and the first one's good. She wore a leopard print to go with Narnia, and then they have a lion in the background. Second one, I told them they could bring props. And so, and if you know Mrs. Shostack, she is just one of the most fun teachers ever. She has a shirt that says, "Don't make me send out the flying monkeys." And then she brought a little monkey and smiling. However, her reading material was on the Holocaust. So now we've learned, okay, if you're going to have a sad book, you probably shouldn't be happily doing that. So that one was a little learning. She, since then, had the students make different ones for her, fun ones and with fun backgrounds and different books, and then she made them for Christmas for her grandchildren to put in their bedrooms.
Is this Photoshop?
No, it was green screen.
Okay.
It was just in the green screen.
Yeah, there's a green screen
Yep.
app on iPad.
Okay.
Yep.
And
And then I think the lettering though, we then pulled it over to typography. I think that was another.
Typorama.
Typorama, thank you. That was typography. And then we did that, and I saved them, and I had them printed out really cheap at Sam's Club, and there we go.
And we use the green screen with, we do a crush can fundraiser. And so I was looking for something different. My first, second, third, and fourth quarter all do kind of different things because I get bored and I don't want to do it 4 times. So instead of doing the same infomercials, we did commercials for our crush fundraiser. So they had to explain what it was, which 6th graders, most of them don't know what it is because it's their first year in our middle school. And we put them up on our TV for morning announcements. I sent them off to the teachers and they could put them in and talk about the fundraiser and different things like that. It's funny, the kids that talk, once you put the light on, they're like, they don't. So you learn, you help figure out things like that. Monkey fling.
Yeah. So when my 8th graders first came, they didn't know what iLab was. I said, okay, it's problem solving, it's teamwork. And so what we did was we had a monkey fling challenge. I'm an art teacher. I have a lot of junk in my room. I mean, supplies. I have a lot of supplies in my room. And so each group, they divided up in their own groups. That was one of those things where I vacillated. Do I put them in groups or do they group themselves? And I thought, if it was me, I'd want to group myself. And they did really well that way. And they got so excited to work with their friends and different people they liked. But each group got 2 cups, 2 rubber bands, 6 popsicle sticks, a piece of string, tape, and a little plastic monkey. That was it. I said, this is what you get. Your job is to figure out some sort of contraption to fling this monkey as far as you possibly can. And what we'll do is we'll go out in the hallway and see whose can be flung the furthest. Oh my gosh. It was so much fun seeing them just work. I mean, they wanted to come in before school. They wanted to come in after school. It was crazy. And one thing we realized is the simplest machine worked the best. So the ones that had these crazy ideas were never as successful as just the simple. And that was one of the most remarkable learning lessons for us. So that was a fun one to do. Then we had the cardboard challenge. Oh my gosh, I love the cardboard challenge. We watched Kane's Arcade, which I'm sure many of you have seen this video, Kane's Arcade. And this little boy, he's bored at his dad's shop, he gets cardboard and he builds an arcade. My students then, I told them, I said, okay, you can build a workable game or a costume. And if you've ever been to Instructables.com, there's tons of things. But what they came up with was above and beyond what I ever assumed they would make. Ever. How many of you have ever worked with cardboard cutters? Can we show them? No?
Yeah, I got it right here.
Got it right there? This is a life changer, right here.
Okay. Now you do this and every kid freaks out because they don't know what's going on. And you would be amazed at the amount of kids that don't even know how to properly hold a nail and a hammer. I mean, it really is, I'm very not handy, but kids just don't know that stuff. So trying to cut cardboard with scissors is dangerous. X-Acto knives is way worse than that. So we found these and ordered them online, I think.
Yeah.
It's a piece of cake. And this is what they were cutting that animal apart with. And the reason was for a science class, and I'll talk about that later. But the first time, they don't even want to touch this thing. They don't know what to do with it. And then once they start to use it, they won't put it down.
Yeah, they
like,
fight
okay,
over
no,
who
you
gets to use
cannot cut your pencil.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Or popsicle sticks
So,
or.
You have to really, but the thing with this is it was fairly cheap, and then it has a bunch of heads, so it does have a screwdriver and it has different things you can put with it. So I recommend cutting these up. We'll pass it around. Feel free to use it. It really.
And there's
it's
different
addicting.
versions
I mean,
of that.
it's
You can get different brands, but
So
it's,
feel free to go ahead
it's
and cut away.
fantastic. They had, in fact, I had so many kids because I had it first semester last year. Asked their parents for one for Christmas. That was what their biggest Christmas request is. They wanted a cardboard cutter. Now, personally at home, I got one for myself too. Disappeared. My husband took it to work. I mean, so I had to buy my own again too. They're wonderful, wonderful. The kids had so much fun making.
This picture is one that Amy sent, and it's cool because the kids are working. Look at them; they're all pretty engaged. It seems like for the most part. But the best part about this is can we go back? This right here. And that's a clock on the wall, and it's 8:20. Kids have been in there for 20 minutes already, and class doesn't start for another 10. Okay, so it's before school, and if you've ever had hall duty before school, it's like the rooms are on fire, and they all want to stand in the hallway. Okay, so they made their way down a hallway that's not even really on the way to anywhere to go work. I find that with my class, it's more during the day, it's not first period, and they're standing outside as I'm walking down the hall from science because I got to unlock the door, and they're like, come on, let's go. And so they're engaged, and it's not even school time yet. To us, that means that we're probably doing something right.
And the poster, many of you have probably seen this on Pinterest. That's where I got the idea, I will admit. Different ways to attach cardboard, put cardboard pieces together. Most students, like Gabe was saying, hammer and nail, they don't know how to build things. This was so enlightening for them. They got to create. They got to use their hands. A lot of times how do I put this together? I'm like, I don't know. Figure it out. And they would. It was crazy, crazy cool. But this was a mask that one of my students made. The ears wiggle, and she could see out of it. Being the art teacher, I gave them paints if they wanted to paint things and yarn and whatever. So that was a mask. Okay, this was one of the games a group of girls made. A skee ball.
This is the 1620 rev skee ball machine.
Then they figured out they couldn't get the ball very well, so they had to figure a better way for the ball to drop out. But it was simple. It was simple, but they had so much fun, but it was the creativity as well as designing the game. That was another problem they had. It would get stuck. And so, oh my gosh, and they love this. They could, conference night. Nobody ever comes to the art teacher. It's just fact of life. However, so I stayed down in the iLab. I had so many kids bringing their parents, their aunts, their cousins, their friends down to show what they made. I'd never experienced that before. It was awesome.
How much time do you typically spend on a project?
It depends. That's good. We played it by ear. A lot of times I would have a set date, but they weren't ready, and so, but because it's not graded, but that was another thing for their stress level, and some got done earlier and then they went on and did something else, but yes, I did not have set times, which was a luxury, which I usually don't get.
And you do eventually have to say, okay,
Yes.
come on, let's stop planning
We're all-
and let's go. But especially if you work in groups, there's always one person that's going to really worry about staying on track. So, that does become sometimes a problem. But then when you go to present and someone's not done and you move on, then usually that happens once. The next time they figure out they gotta.
Yeah.
they
So
gotta
like
go
for the
over.
monkey fling, like did it take
That
kids?
was probably 2 days creating and 1 day flinging. Yep. But we played by ear. I kind of saw when most of them got done, then we kind of want to. Plus, then they see what we're doing next, and then they all want to be done.
Your kids do a great job of like reflecting on what happens
Yes.
and adjusting their work based on it. Is that something that you had to spend time thinking, or because of the nature of the work they were doing, did it come naturally?
This is how I always tell them. I said, explain it as if your grandma is watching you. Grandmas, a lot of times you have to explain in detail, but we did talk about it, about how here's your audience.
Okay.
You need to explain what you're doing.
Okay.
And then they would, for grading purposes, then they'd email me their videos.
Okay.
So I had them.
And then I just think the going back, they'll ask you, and you just say, what do you think?
Yep.
I've never built a pinball machine out of cardboard like they're gonna do here. So I can't fix your problem. So what do you think's gonna solve it? And once they realize, and that's where some of those kids are like, just tell me the answer. Well, if I don't know, I can't tell you. So, we could plead stupidity to a point, which worked.
But they took ownership.
Yes,
in
they
this,
did.
and they ran with it. This was awesome.
The pinball machine works really well. Oh,
Really?
it did.
Here we go.
This is Luke Adamson Blake, and he presents you the lab pinball machine. Okay, so first to start off the game, you pull the plunger and shoot the
We
ball.
have to build the plunger.
Sometimes you can get an instant win off the plunger. Get a win?
Not the steadiest hand all the time.
No.
You should have.
Vertigo.
And then, there one more leads to a. I'll see if you can shoot it.
They're already celebrating.
Luke does that ball right there. Most of the time you won't get instant win. When you don't get instant win, it's very hard to win. You can just use it for except for Luke is being absolutely beautiful.
But they also bought prizes, so if anybody ever played it, they would give them a prize that they won.
It goes back in the plunger.
That's how involved into this
Now,
they
you
were.
launch it, you launch out. Oh my God.
The thing that they're using is that was out of my yard. I did some stuff with my sprinkler system and took out a big pipe, and then I just cut it into chunks and thought, well, we don't have a bunch of stuff for iLab, why not take it in there? And they turned it into that.
Alright, hey, who's the video? I'm gonna try to play it. If you win the game, the ball will roll out a chute and you get to keep the ball. If you lose the game, too bad, you don't get to keep a ball. Thank you. Bye.
Oh,
So
but
you just have supplies out and they were to go and
yep.
just do whatever you want.
And then at a certain time we do have cleanup, and we do. As an art teacher, I have a lot of junk, but we'll talk about how we got a lot of our supplies too,
Yeah.
because we were not given much money.
We use Spiros. How many people have ever used Spiros? Okay, so we won't spend a lot of time on that, but these are just obstacle courses. This is great. We use them. I use them to drive, just manually drive, but also I use them to help them learn to code. And I show the hour of code video and talk about coding, and they do a lot of different things with those. And again, some of them like to do that. I mean, there are kids that we're fortunate. We just have a robotics program that's 3 years old now. 3 years old, and they've done really well, and so now they can come down and talk to our middle school kids, and our middle school kids, I mean, we now have freshmen that they're interested in that, which is awesome, and they're excited about that. And these are kids that, they're not gonna go sing, they're not in drama, they're not in something else, but they found what they really enjoy, and they whip through some of these coding things real quick. Spiro is one way that we do the coding. We have some examples back there. We also have on the next slide, I believe, we did
Chariots.
chariot
Yeah.
races. Okay. And I think the next slide has a video of, this is our long hallway.
Our long hallway.
And the chariot race that is. We don't need to watch all 3 minutes, but
First period.
But it's fun to see their different ideas that they come up with. They could, yep. They could. You get the little biting. And some work a lot better than others.
Will they race? Your goal is to go all the way down to the doors and back. Yeah, we're going down and back. Go
Pardon me?
all the way down.
Yes, the
So
Spiros.
the
That's a
Spiros sitting in there
long-
somewhere to drive along.
Can we walk with the Spiros? Yes. But you have to stay a ways behind so you don't knock somebody else's, right?
Yeah, I could have had it.
Sure. And you gotta jump around. Okay. Ready?
And this is just utter chaos. It's hilarious. Full start. No. There we go.
Some of them won't flinch cheating on a test, but you're not going to cheat a chariot race.
That's right.
All right, go.
Bad start right now. See, I always tell them the purpose of these classes just to make me laugh because they just crack me up. Oh, we gotta.
Just fix it quick.
Yeah, we don't have to watch this. Oh, gal, it was funny. And we've got just another look at. We can just look at Spiros because it's hilarious what they create.
Yeah.
That's more, to me. That's more important than the race. Is that it worked and what their idea for that. We also had Chariots Soccer. This is something my students came up with. They want to play soccer. So we started with the ball. It didn't work very well. I don't know if you can see it. My little puck. It's a little air hockey puck, but I got it at Menards, and it has a fan in it, and it floats. So it was easy for them to knock around on the floor. But yeah, it was very fun. But the soccer turned into, they decided they wanted to have more of a battle box type thing. So we got, oh my gosh, and what they came up with. So then they all reimagined their chariots. The best one just had a string with a little piece of cardboard around it. And what he would do, he would be an awesome battle box. He'd go and he'd wrap it around the other Spiros and drag them off. And it worked every time. He'd win every time. It was like, that's brilliant. But it was something simple. And then they came up with, they wanted to do different Olympics, Serial Olympics. And they came up with all different kinds of crazy things. King of the Hill we had. I think one of the next pictures is the, that's more. Yeah, we made, it was like a King of the Hill type of thing. But they had to code. They had to code to get to the middle. So they each took a turn coding at the same time, see what happened, and they'd have like 3 chances, and whoever ended up in the middle at the end won.
More Spiros. This is our PE teacher, and he's an associate and also part-time AD, and we caught them down playing with the Spiros.
Yeah.
So Mr. Winger happened to be down there, and they're down there. I talked to him about it. And I think Troy was actually in my class, and so he went down and took Caleb down there, and we found them just messing around. We had this was at Barnes and Nobles. It was an opportunity for us to raise some money for the program, and our kids just went and showed. And Spiros was one of the things that they felt comfortable showing. We have a carnival. We had a magician lined up. We've had a magician forever at this carnival that raises a ton of money for our middle school, and the magician backed out on us. And so what happened was they came in, and I'm in charge of the magician, and they said, well, what can you do? I said, well, we're working on Spiros. Let's make obstacle courses. So that week in school, my kids created an obstacle course. And so then they made a little kid obstacle course and a big kid obstacle course. And we gave out prizes for the fastest time at the end of the night. And they came up with everything. They put these little tubes in there. They had little army men standing in the way that they had to go around. And it was funny because the little kids one was for little kids, and the big kid one was won actually by a little kid. But there were parents that would stand in line and be like, can I play? I'm like, sure, do you have any? And so then they'd give me some tickets, and okay. And then when they would lose, the kids would just give them a hard time. It was kind of funny. Stop motion animation, we can go through, go to the next one actually. This is we're running out of time, and I knew this would happen. But this is Slitherio, and these are with gummy worms and stop motion. Take a picture, move it a little bit. Take a picture, move it a little bit. They put the music on, and they made the game. This was a big game last year, I guess.
I think I'll take a walk outside the summer air is shameless. The streets are
The best, their favorite part was that when the worms ate the little gummies, well, they had to do something with them, so they ate them themselves. You know, just made life real easy. You got to bring candy. So they really enjoyed that. Stop motion, something real fun that they seem to enjoy, and it's simple. Yeah.
What were they trying to depict in that? I couldn't hear what you were saying.
There's a game called Slitherio. It's on phones. It's just an app, and they just basically they play that, and then they had to make some sort of stop motion. If you've ever worked with stop motion? Stop motion is very simple, and so they took gummy worms as their little things that are slithering, and then these dots are the things that they get points for, and they would go and they'd move it a little bit, and they'd take a picture and move it, and then when it got a dot, then they'd put another gummy worm behind it so it'd get longer. And they had to come up with some type of stop motion. They did it on whiteboards, they did it with these. The hard part about this was, and they didn't realize it, at the end of the class period, it took 2 or 3 days, at the end of the class period, they would put them all in a bag and put it away. Well, then the next day they came and they went to pick up where their project left off, and they're like, oh no, where was everything at? So they had to line up the camera, and there's a thing called an onion skin on a lot of stop motion programs, and so they put it so they could see it, and they take the red dot and they move it just right to there. So it took them 10-15 minutes just to get back to where they needed to get to. So eventually after the first day they realized, then they just picked it up and put it on our counter, so they wouldn't have to take so long to do it. What do we have next?
Oh, this is one of my students' donation.
Do you want to do it?
So they can only watch on their own too. But there we go. It's a fast one. 42 seconds.
We have Hue cameras for some stop motion. We also have iPads, and I used Hue cameras and they were okay, but the iPads are what the kids really liked, and they liked doing the stop motion with each other out in the halls. We didn't put any on there, but they love to make people fly. So you jump up and you take a picture, and then you take a step forward and jump up and take a picture, and it's loud and they're tired, and 6th graders sweat. But they do this all up and down the hall. I mean, they did a swimming competition down that long hallway. There was like 3 or 4 of them, and they would move their arm just a little bit, and they had someone taking pictures, chasing them down the hall, and then they'd go and they'd slide forward a little bit. So they had a swimming competition down our hallway. It was hilarious watching it. Let me keep going, and then I'll talk about the EV3s. I want to talk about. Keep going. I want to make sure we get to keep going. I want to talk about how we got our stuff.
Oh yeah.
Okay, and then we can go back to the other things. So when this project came up, our principal, everyone's busy, and everyone at the end of the year, he had this idea and said, hey, let's do this, okay? Make a list, okay? We sat down, we made a list, and we gave him a copy of the list, and he said, that looks great. And we're like, yes. So then, about August 10th, Tracy, one of our tech coaches, called and said, do you realize none of that's been ordered? And I said, no. And so I talked to our principal, and he said, well, I said it's great, which meant go ahead and order it. I didn't read that in the language, because that's not what I thought. So when we started the school year, we had nothing. So we're starting a new class with no curriculum and no supplies. So it started off slow. One of the things that I'd gone to the summer before was the EV3, and actually it wasn't even EV3 at that time, it was the older Lego robots, Mindstorm ones. And so I was like, okay, we'll get that. So I got that from another district area group. Iowa State Extension is what it was. And those came in and they were great to use, but you know, they lend them out and they do their best, but it's hard to keep everything together. And then they're getting shipped to and fro, and you get them for a shorter amount of time. So what I did is, as we were doing this, we have a thing called LEAP, and it's basically like our activity boosters, our booster club, only for academics, and it's an awesome foundation in our school, and they have a good chunk of money. And so last year, in the middle of the year, I went to them and asked them for $10,000. Why not? For a bunch of robots. Was it 5,000? Oh, I have 5 minutes? I couldn't remember. I asked for a lot of money, and he was saying 5, so I didn't know. So they said that we'd love to, but how about the school kick in some? And I'm like, hey, great idea, because that's still not me kicking it in. And so my principal matched LEAP, and so now we have 13, and then I have a relative that happened to have 3 just laying around, brand new ones. And so now we have 13 robots that the kids are working on, and it cost our school very little for what we put into it. We also went with this list because we didn't have much, and we went to a makerspace thing up at RAEA, and they said, come up with a list. So we came up with a list, and we took it to our principals and said, can we put this in our newsletter that comes out every month? And they said,
But it was like
no.
Tools,
Yeah.
basic things.
They
Nails,
said no.
tools, hammers, screwdrivers.
And they said, we don't want a bunch of junk laying around. And we don't want you guys to have to figure out what's good and what's bad. And we're like, okay. And so I said, well, I can't put it in the newsletter, but I have more Facebook friends than people are going to read the newsletter. So I put it on Facebook. So I put that's a lot. But I put a big explanation of what we're doing, what a makerspace is, and a huge list. And we got stuff. Legos from underneath beds that parents didn't want anymore. Okay? And Legos aren't cheap, people. I mean, so we got lots of Legos. We had a guy that works for a company that wires buildings, and he's friends with my brother who not retweeted, but whatever, shared it. And so we got that. He called me, he's like, do you want some wire? I'm like, sure. He's like, okay, I'll be there. I have some in my truck. Okay, so I walk out the back door thinking he's got like 3 things of wire. He had 50 spools of partially used wire that we're still using. Stuff that people just found because they didn't want it, or they found it at grandpa's place. We had a grandma go out and buy stuff because her son wasn't in the class anymore, but he really liked it when he was, and so she bought a bunch of stuff.
Yeah. I have a friend, lovely, lives down in Omaha, works for Oriental Trading. One of the best things ever. They give boxes that are ripped open or damaged a little bit away for free. He at least every other month or so he'll load his car up and either come to up with me or I go down to him and he'll donate. I mean, it's weird stuff, but it's perfect.
But
it's
for
perfect.
when we're building weird stuff, it works out perfect. This is one of my favorites because I put out something that says, I need pegboard, because we want to try to hang up our tools. And so I get an email from our janitor. He's like, I got pegboard. Why didn't you tell me you needed it? I'm like, oh. I didn't think to tell you. And then I get a text from my mom. We got pegboard. I saw it on Facebook. You need it. I'm like, oh, well, I've been talking about this class for how long, Mom? So these 2 things are people that I talk to probably on a daily basis, and until I put it on Facebook, they didn't know that I needed pegboard, which was they. But and you always, it was amazing. We have so many screwdrivers, and we have hammers. We have things. We have a saw. We have these little saws, and so kids. They're like, can you cut this for me? I'm like, well, I'll hold it. And so I hold it, and it's just very small. And they're like, now what? I'm like, whoa, cut.
Yeah.
Okay? And they're like, really? With the saw? Well, it's not on fire. I mean, you'll be able to do it. And so they do it, and I've had parents come up and say, they used the saw today? Yeah. Okay, first off, it's like very small. But second off, yeah. And they're like, they can't stop talking about it.
Yeah.
But
communities are very willing to donate
Yes.
if they know. I mean, people, my
We've been
parents
very
as well,
fortunate.
they want to donate. And
We were fortunate in that way. But you don't know until you ask. And Facebook and Twitter are huge things. I skipped over a few things because we talked too much and we had too many slides, but that's okay. You are more than willing or welcome to go. If you have any questions, nothing we did is anything that took a ton of money or a ton of expertise, and actually we probably didn't know anything when we started it. We read some books. Pinterest is huge. Twitter, Facebook,
Instructables.com.
and just other people. One thing, I tried to get it back into the classroom. I know I'm over time, but I did something where our goal is to make it so our makerspace is part of the classroom normally. And we did a project where we went down and had to create an animal. I called it Create a Creature. And they had to actually make an animal of 2 different species and bring it together. It was pretty cool. Then this year, those 6th graders came up to me because they're making something in 7th grade science, and they said, hey, can I go down and use some of the stuff in the iLab? They don't have iLab in 7th grade, but they want to come down and use this stuff, and I'm like, absolutely, that's what we want. So, any questions, whatever, let us know. We might be able to help you. We might just be able to point you in the right direction to find some answers, but hope you enjoyed it. Enjoy the rest of the conference, and thanks for coming.
Thank you.